Aloha! Welcome to Money Talk for Leaders. My name is Harrison. I am one of your hosts for today's session. We'll be together for about an hour. I'm the co-founder of Gold Zone Group, and my favorite project is the Gold Zone Leadership Center. We have other projects too. We have a wellness clinic, a medical center, we have a technology company, we have an investment company, we have a publishing company, and a few others. So we're a small group of companies, and our favorite subject is leadership and all things that impact leaders in all areas of life. And how we look at it is your personal life impacts your career, it impacts your business, it impacts your leadership, and your leadership impacts your personal life, and everything works together. So today we're going to talk about money, and my co-host for today is Victoria. Welcome, Victoria.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Yes, my name is Victoria. I am the CEO of the Gold Zone Group. And today we are going to talk about hot subject, money. Yay.
What makes it so hot, Victoria?
Well, actually, I wanted to ask the question, what makes it so hot? I think money is one of the most sensitive subject. And it's one of the subject that is the toughest to talk about. And it brings up a lot of feelings.
Brings up a lot of feelings,
Brings up a lot of feelings. And I wanted to ask, anyone who is interested, they can comment. When we say money, when the money conversation or when the topic money comes up, right? What feeling does it bring up for you? You can type it on the stream.
You're going straight for the feeling. Straight for the core of the issue, the emotion attached to money. One of my mentors used to say that it is easier to talk to people about sex, and that's not an easy subject to talk about either, especially in a corporate setting. What the heck? Why are we talking about sex in terms of leadership? It's easier to talk about that than it is money, because people have so much emotion tied to money, particularly shame.
Yes, it is very true.
That's the elephant in the room, isn't it?
Yes. And shame is connected to having money and not having money. So it's not just not having money.
Oh, you say if you have money, you feel shame. And if you don't have money, you feel shame. And if you're in between, you feel shame. What the heck? How are we going to get out of that?
Yes, because and guilt is another emotion, because have money guilty, no money guilty. So it's like there's so much emotion that comes with it.
I can relate to this because I was watching the news about what's going on in the Gaza Strip, the Palestinians, the Ukrainians, and the Russians at war, and what's happening between Israel and Palestine. And I was looking at all the people starving, and then, the World Kitchen with people dying, and they're trying to do good, and, it's a war zone. And I was thinking about how lucky we are to be in Singapore, how safe we are, how protected we are, how stable the economy is, how stable the government is, and how it's a safe place to live. And I was thinking about how prosperous we are. And then I was reflecting on the people in Gaza not having enough food to eat.
Yeah. That's true survivor. That's not a full survivor.
I was thinking just this morning, what can we do to help them and other people around the world who are not as fortunate as us? And even if I went and tried to live on water and gave all my money to them, it's like a drop in the ocean. It make no difference whatsoever on the bigger scheme, might help a few people. So then what can I do that will make a difference? And this is connected to money, and it's connected to how we feel about our success and our prosperity. And are we better off having less so others can have more? Or here's the thing, does us sacrificing help others, or can we all create more together by cooperating and having more abundance for everyone? And that's the real question when it comes to leadership and money, is creativity, innovation, and creating more. Because we can't save our way to wealth. We can't save our way to security, because you can cut, and end up with nothing.
True. Also, I want to just clarify that today's money talk has nothing to do with what should we invest in, what should you do, it's nothing to do with the tools that are involved in any form of money making vehicles, or it has, we are not going to say share anything about that, because the main thing with the money talk is to allow all of us as a leader, should you want to take charge of your money and wealth more, to be comfortable talking about money, regardless of how much one have or don't have.
Mm. So you're saying this session is not sponsored by anyone. We're not having
No.
Some pitch that we're going to give everybody at some time during the session. Buy this investment, buy this stock, buy this crypto.
No.
There's none of that, and we're not
No.
pushing any particular agenda in terms of investment. We are just passionate about helping leaders to have more of what they want and make a greater difference in the world, right? So we do this as part of our whole program as a leadership center.
And also, yes, and also to help people get more comfortable so that you are able to, because whether you're employees, employers, business owners, solopreneur, it doesn't matter what you do. If you are not comfortable with money, then, or if you're not comfortable talking about money, how do you ask for more? How do you feel good about receiving more? And how do you give more? So there's a lot of dynamic that comes together being a leader and talking about money. And there are a few areas that we're going to touch on that will help you, that will validate some of your feelings around money, and the experience that we have around money when we talk to people is more common. People are uncomfortable talking about money than they are comfortable.
Right.
And how do we know whether once someone is comfortable or not? Is the way they answer the money question. Usually it's very unclear and there's no specific.
You mean people get fluffy?
Yeah, get fluffy around money.
And isn't that where a lot of distrust comes in, is that there's so many scams and scammers and people seeking our attention and trying to sell us things we might not necessarily need or want.
Yeah.
And they're forcing their agenda on us, buy this now, and insisting that we do it now, and forcing us into stuff, manipulating us. So then our trust goes down. And this is in a critical area of our money, because when we go low trust, then it impacts our money flow, because the lower trust we have, the slower we go. And so for those of us who like to go fast, we need a high level of trust. We need to trust ourselves and the people around us in order to go fast.
Yes.
Where do people get their money advice from as a leader now? So, people can go to books, they can go to courses, I guess. Where do they go, Victoria?
I would say the most common places people go to are, if for business owner, they get advice from accountant, financial advisor. Banking, people from the financial industry, as well as accountant and people who have some technical knowledge around finance.
So leaders go to bankers, investment people. So they're getting their advice from salespeople, because these people are paid salespeople. So they get commission based on recommending something. So aren't we short of independent financial advice where we can learn about money, our relationship to money, in a safe way, where someone is not trying to sell us investments that benefit them and don't benefit us necessarily?
Yeah. Well, I would say that maybe, beyond the vehicle that we are selling, to have more objective view around money from bigger picture point of view, so that they can still invest in those vehicles while still be able to have a more holistic view around money.
Right.
Because I think a big part that is missing in the finance industry that are not talked about a lot is our relationship with money, because relationship with money impact our ability to make more money, invest money, save money, and spend money. And generally, from an Asian culture point of view, right, we are being, I'm very sure other culture has this too. Spending money is treated like a evil thing. Like you shouldn't be spending too much money if you want to prepare for your future. So it becomes a little bit of a lopsided generally when it comes to instead of having a balance, most of us are more security focused. Oh, better not spend too much so that our future is handled. And meanwhile, a lot of people are miserable now because they can't. We work so hard. A lot of people work really hard, make all this money but can't spend it. That's one of the dynamic around money that is not talked about a lot.
So people who make all this money, save all this money, and they're focused on their security, and no amount of money that they make or save helps them feel more secure,
No.
and then they can't spend it. So what's the point of having money if you can't spend it?
Yeah.
What does it do for you if it doesn't actually make you feel more secure? I would propose, Victoria, that working on one's relationship with money is one of the biggest investments that we can make as leaders, because a lot of our motivations in being leaders is money oriented. We're not all working for free, are we? And
No.
then the people who work with us aren't working for free either. So everybody's working for money.
Exactly.
The vendors aren't giving us their services for free. We're paying for them. There's an open market where people are trading products and services for money, and money is that medium of exchange. So understanding the medium and having mastery over the emotions connected to the medium is going to free us up and give us a lot more freedom. And to me, this is why the subject of money is so exciting. I love talking about money, even though it's a difficult one for most people, for us too,
Yeah.
right? Because of the emotions people experience on this subject, mostly fear, and we mentioned some earlier of shame and whatnot. But freedom is the main thing to discuss about money, because if we don't work on our relationship, then we're at the effect of these other forces that impact this critical area.
Yeah. Well, ability to make clear decision about around money is impacted by our relationship with money. How clear are we when it comes to how we feel about money? And it's not a mental concept, because I can say I believe in abundance, but does my behavior align with my feeling? That's another, with my actual feeling. That's how I know my real feeling around money, because it's easy to say, yeah, I believe in abundance, until uh, I start to take action, until I start to
Right.
get into my own obstacles around the worry about scarcity. Oh no, I'm not gonna have enough. Oh, am I gonna have enough?
Right.
Oh no, am I gonna make enough? And am I gonna save enough? All these are part of what will come up when we deal with money, and how much risk calculate. I'm not talking about careless. I'm talking about calculated risk. Am I willing to take, and how much am I willing to lose in order to have more? And the willingness to lose is very, very rare. Most people will they will want a lot of guarantee. They will want a lot of, making sure that this is you show me the guarantee. If not, I'm not going to do it. That's
So what
one
guarantee
very common behavior.
what guarantee do you have you're going to wake up tomorrow morning? Nothing. You have no guarantee you'll be alive tomorrow or next week. There is no guarantee in life at all. Yes, and I understand when it comes to finances, people want a high level of security and guarantees.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that people can talk about abundance, say they believe in abundance, they can use all the right language, but if their emotion is going opposite, so if what their emotion is here, their thinking is here, and their behavior is the gap between what they think and what they feel, because we act in a way consistent with our emotion more than we do with our thinking. But a lot of people think that they're rational and they're making rational decisions, and that emotion isn't a factor. And what I've found in all the thousands of leaders and people I've talked to, business owners and investors and whatnot, about money, is that people mostly think that they're rational and make rational choices. And the more logical, rational they think they are, the more emotional they are driven by. They're driven by these emotions they don't know they have.
Yeah. Well, because it's a suppressed underneath that they are not aware of. So there's a lot of emphasis on I'm being very logical because I'm thinking, I'm going through all the different scenario and I'm being really, really logical. But what's driven underneath is really a lot of fear, making sure that they have all kinds of certainty that is needed to help them with the logic that they want the certainty from here.
Can I give an example of this, Victoria?
Yeah.
Here's from an unrelated area, but it applies exactly the same. When you're traveling and you're looking for a hotel, some people, when they're going to a new city, what they do is they look at maybe not 100, but they look at lots and lots of hotels to try and find the best deal, to find the best place. And so they put in a lot of work and they analyze these hotels. Some people even put them in a spreadsheet, work it out, and figure out what's the best value, price, location, what do we get? And they put a lot of effort into analyzing it. They might do it with travel programs on credit cards also. And then the same equivalent is when they do it with analyzing stocks. They'll go through many, many different analysis to choose the right stock as they do with choosing a hotel. Now, this is all driven by the fear of making a mistake and trying to get it right. And there's a whole lot of emotions that are driving that super analysis and extra work versus someone who is connected emotionally, who has a high intuitive sense, can choose something based on intuition and ask a few questions, choose the right hotel, and don't need to look at hundreds of them, can just look at one or two as a comparison, maybe three maximum, and then just choose it. And it takes 5 minutes, the whole process. And then from a 5-minute process, you choose exactly the right hotel in the right location with the right deal, with the right service, with all this history, and you have a wonderful experience without all the analysis paralysis that people will put into trying to get it right.
To save, actually to save some money. The focus is on saving $10, $50 here and there versus having a great experience and focus on optimizing our whole experience. And the amount of time, I can relate to that. So I used to have more of that until I understand why I have those behavior. And the problem with having those behavior is that from my own experience, I get really frustrated and I'm worried about, oh no, am I going to, oh no, I just lost $10 here, $50 there. Oh, I couldn't save this amount. And then all my worry around trying to save money impacts my ability to enjoy my travel at the, at the end of the day. So it just defeats the whole purpose. And this has nothing to do with affordability.
No, because it could be at any level, right?
Yes, correct. We have seen a lot of people who can way afford beyond what they are spending and still worry about pennies.
Yeah, like we have a few instances of having clients who are in the ultra high net worth category, which is like the top of the top. They have plenty of resources and money. And when we first got to know them, we wondered if they could even pay basic stuff, that they had 2 pennies to rub together, because they had this behavior of looking like they were on the borderline of poverty and barely scraping by, and it couldn't afford anything. And it turns out they were in the ultra high net worth category and, kind of miserable. So this is, and they're just obsessed with security and fear of losing. And what's the point of having any money if you're afraid of losing it? Then your fear has you, and the resources are not able to be deployed to enrich your life and to further whatever vision that you have. And this example with hotels over analysis and with stocks being the same way, years ago, my co-founder of GoldZone, Anju, and I, we decided to both buy some stocks at one stage. And Anju took 30 seconds to choose her stock. And I went and did this whole analysis and, did my research. And in retrospect, yeah, you can laugh, Victoria. Laugh. It's very funny. In retrospect, I'm going to tell you.
I'm laughing at myself too.
I'm going to tell you which stock we chose, and I feel like an idiot because I chose Dell. So I thought Dell was this hot stock, and Anju took 30 seconds to choose Apple. Now, go forward a few decades, and who do you think made the best financial decision. The one that she made turned out the Apple stock has gone through the roof compared to what it was back then, and Dell went up and down, and has, it's still higher than what it was back then, but compared to Apple, it's nowhere near. And so me and my over-analysis, I chose a dud, and she did 30 seconds and said Apple. And I asked her why, and she said, this reason. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But, I think they're not going to do it, and like this. And I was wrong. I was completely wrong. And so many of us have this similar experience, but we don't trust our intuition. And when you're driven by fear, your intuition is actually clouded by fear. So you can't use and trust your intuition until your emotion is out of the way, and you're not run by those fears and doubts and disbeliefs and shame and remorse and guilt and regret and all that stuff. This clouds our decisions and impacts even our most seemingly logical ones.
It's true. Actually, I wanted to, just now when you brought up trust, right? I think it's an important topic because a lot of people project their trust onto a third party, onto the people that they are talking to. But what I realized for myself is that, the interesting thing is that the more I can trust myself, the less distrust I have on other people. So I don't project as much as skepticism. This is not about not questioning anything, just to be clear. We are not saying that. I think having healthy skepticism is very, very important, because it's important to question things, question what people are saying to us. I don't believe in everything everyone say.
Oh man.
Oh my God. So that's not what I'm saying. But what I notice is that whether I believe it or not, right, it does not, I don't project my distrust onto the other person as much as when I was less, I feel less trusting. I don't know whether that makes sense or not. Because what a lot of people will say to you that they might not say it, but there's a feeling when they deal with you. If you are running a business, or if you are in sales, or if you are a solopreneur, you will notice that sometimes if you find yourself needing to convince someone, that is a red flag.
Well, let's pick that up, Victoria. You asked if it made sense. It makes perfect sense to me. How about the rest of you? You want to type in? Does it make sense to you that if you trust yourself, it's easier to trust other people? And if you don't trust yourself, it's more difficult to trust other people. So when we're distrusting of people, generally it's because we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust our judgment. We don't trust our intuition. And we are worried we are going to make a mistake and trust the wrong person. And all of us, myself included, Victoria, have trusted the wrong people from time to time.
Yes. And what I noticed working with so many people over the years when it comes to that, at the end of the day, right, the worry about making mistake is a big part of the worry. It's not just us worrying about us making mistake, because if I make my own mistake and it's just me that I got to deal with is one thing. The problem is when I got to deal with other people judging me or criticizing me for making me wrong for the mistake that I make. And that's the other part that most people don't take into consideration. And all the worry about how other people see me impacts my ability to make clear decision.
Yep. I'm just typing here. Keep going.
Yeah. So that's why the topic about money is so sensitive, and that a lot of people are worried about losing money. And because money is one of the biggest contributing factor to the quality of our life, and that the feeling, that's why I say that, in Gaza, right, we're talking about real, true survivor, and they're like trying to survive. Whereas in a developed country like Singapore, or even developing country around Singapore, right? Well, let's talk about Singapore. Really, how many people are really in a true survival mode? Doesn't matter how much money we spend, or we have or don't have, or make or don't make, because we're actually quite well protected by government. no one is going to lose our shelter over our head, even if we don't have a place to live in, government will provide. Is that what the thing that we really lose is face, not so much of the actual, roof over our head. And does it mean that it's okay for us to do that? No. But I think a lot of people are driven by that survival mode or security mode, that it really limit a lot of people from making clear decisions for themselves. And that a lot of people are trapped in that mode. And what has that got to do with leadership? Because as a leader, if you don't understand this about your employee, and when you're running a business, or when you're working with clients, partners, then you won't be able to, your ability to lead them is going to be very limited. These are
Well, how do you lead
knowledge.
someone if they don't trust you? How do you lead them if you don't trust yourself? How do you have confidence if you don't trust yourself? So trusting yourself is the basic foundation. Yet how many people don't trust themselves?
Yeah. And how do you lead people who are in that survivor feeling? Because employees get a job, they want an income, and if they are in that survivor feeling, it's going to impact their productivity. That's another factor. What are they driven by? Are they driven by, success? Are they driven by security? Are they driven by survivor? They are all connected to money.
The vast majority of people are driven by security. In a country like Singapore, it's security that obsesses people, and they think that they're being success-minded, but they're actually more attached to security in most cases. And
Yep.
it's a minority that are attached to success, because success is a different paradigm than security. And in the chat, Travis says a poverty mindset versus growth mindset. And I would say it's not necessarily the comparison between those two. It's a poverty mindset versus a prosperity mindset. And we don't often hear a prosperity discussed in terms of leadership. It's discussed with money, but not so much with leadership. Because what would a poverty mindset around leadership look like? It would look like this. Poverty is related to scarcity. And a lot of us have embedded in our psyches and in our bodies that there's not enough to go around.
That's right.
Resources are scarce and that we have to fight for attention. Look at attention. There's a scarcity of attention. There's a scarcity of money. There's a scarcity of work. There's a scarcity of customers. There's a scarcity of resources all around. And this is what people feel in themselves. So there's a competition for all these scarce resources. But if you look at the role of technology in the last 100 to 200 years since the Industrial Revolution, technology has multiplied the available resources over and over and over, which means that we're able to do more with less, and the technology is continuously increasing every year. So what we're able to do is much greater year on year. So this feeling of scarcity and poverty hasn't caught up with the reality of the world. And in terms of money, and I'll hand it over to you to comment, Victoria, in terms of money, we have the central governments printing money like it's going out of business. It's like they are printing, and the world has been awash with money. And now we are dealing with the consequences of flooding the world with money, is that there's rampant inflation. And so we've had to increase the interest rates to tame inflation. And it's still in the process of, digesting that. But this whole idea of scarcity is something that most people have a hard time getting their heads around, because technology is not something we're all familiar with our phones and stuff, but what about how technology multiplies resources? Victoria.
Well, how technology multiply resources?
No, I'm handing over to you after my whole
your whole spiel.
My little monologue there, because you get me on a soapbox talking about technology, poverty, and an abundance mindset or prosperity mindset, and a lot of people talk and they don't understand what it is.
Yeah. Well, there's so many things to decipher that, you can't, 1 hour just is not enough, but this is like to me, this is a great, we are passionate to talk about money. and that everyone have different challenges around money. Even the richest had challenges around money. I wanted to say that, last year I heard our deputy PM Lawrence Wong in one of
Yeah.
his TikTok interview. In Singapore, for those of you who are not based in Singapore, we used to have this movie that was made really popular. The movie name is called Money No Enough. So yeah, and it's it's popular. Popularized through the nation, and those of us who are old enough will know that will know that movie. Anyway, Lawrence Wong, our DPM, Deputy Prime Minister, in a TikTok video interview, one question was asked to him: What is your biggest challenge as a finance minister? So guess what his answer was?
Money not enough. Money
Yep.
not enough.
Because it's true what he said. So what he said to the answer was that everybody want budget for everything, and that it doesn't matter how much reserve or how much money we have, you can't give to everyone. It's not enough to distribute out to everyone. And Singapore is rich. So what does that mean to the rest of us?
Well, Victoria, Singapore might be rich compared to what? And do Singaporeans feel rich, or do we take it for granted?
I'm a Singaporean, so I can say that I would say most Singaporean, we feel comfortable from a basic point of view, but the not enough, the scarcity feeling is very prevalent. It's not, and I know it's not just Singapore. I'm just talking about Singapore, and we have worked with international clients and all that. So we have quite a good idea how people feel when it comes to money from different places. It's not that dissimilar in general.
Isn't it like we've all had the experience of having a few wins, and then after we have a few wins in a row, the feeling is that the shoe's going to drop, something's going to go wrong.
Yes.
And then the last win out of a series doesn't feel so secure. It feels like, I'm going to lose next.
Yes.
And you're waiting for the shoe to drop. And it's similar with the country. So the country has quite a considerable amount of reserves stashed away for the future, has an income off it to supplement the budget. And, like if you compare with the US, they supplement their budget when they spend more than what they bring in, they print debt. So they create debt out of nothing, which then they have to pay off. Whereas Singapore is subsidizing, from the income from the reserve. So Singapore is doing a much better job. And, but the feeling of that is still similar, that, the shoe's going to drop, there's something going to go wrong, there's going to be a war in the region, Taiwan, China, whatever. So there's always some boogeyman around the corner. So it's very hard to relax, isn't it?
Yes. It's not that easy. I mean, I empathize when, I grew up with a lot of scarcity mindset, and it really does take quite a bit to, it takes quite a bit of work to clean slate that. This is the term that we like to use, clean slate the scarcity mindset, to transform my feeling around money. And the other thing is that to not connect my self-worth to my net worth. And that's the other big.
That's hard for people.
That one is really tough. Net worth is not equals to self-worth. The first time I heard of it was about 20 years ago. I thought, wow, that really is a big one. But then most people will say, how do I do it? Do I detach? No, it's not about detaching.
Well, you detach the emotion from it. Yes, there's some detachment there, but yes.
Yeah, but the problem with detaching the emotion is that then you numb yourself out and tell yourself that, oh, money is not important. Oh, money, I don't need money anyway. I mean, that doesn't work.
What that is, Victoria, that's rationalizing. So people, they do two things. They rationalize and they spiritualize. Spiritualize is, I'm going to heaven, and in heaven don't need money, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And my parents did this a lot. My father never believed in insurance because he reckoned God would provide, so he didn't get any insurance. And he really needed it because you know what his insurance was that God provided was having children who could pay for him. You know,
Yeah, we have a Chinese saying for that. We have a Chinese saying for that.
oh my goodness. Oh, I'm sure there's a Chinese. What's the Chinese saying? Come on, tell us. What is it? What is it? I wish I could go. He passed away in 2005, but you know, and he left debt behind, and we had to pay for his funeral, which is a whole other story. Someday in one of these sessions, I'll tell the story of how my brother drove his coffin in a SUV up the length of New Zealand from the South Island to the North Island, stayed in a motel overnight. Oh, I got to tell this story, but not today.
That's the next story. Next story.
What's the
We need
Chinese
1
saying?
hour just for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's
So
what's
the Chinese saying for insurance, children as insurance, is 养儿防老.
Ah,
Most Chinese who can understand Mandarin will understand that essentially basically your children is a retirement plan.
oh my goodness. Oh,
Oh my God.
that's
Luckily
too
I'm
funny.
Chinese, I can talk about it.
You know, I want to add something to the mix here in terms of leadership and the subject is that a lot of us, because of our education at school, and Singapore does a fantastic job of education overall, but it doesn't replace the parents' need to educate the children about money because we don't want our teachers doing it. And the entire education system is not designed to train financial freedom or entrepreneurship or any of that sort of creativity. Most of the system is designed to create workers and for people to go and get a job. And the thinking of getting a job, nothing wrong with having a job, nothing wrong with it at all. But the thinking of getting a job is you exchange time for money. And you have a limited amount of time. So therefore, you have a limited amount of money is how people think about it. And because they think if they want to double their income, they have to double how many hours they work. And they're not willing to do it, can't do it. So they think money is limited. But you have to detach hours for dollars in order to see that money works by different rules than that, but you won't learn it at school and you won't learn it as an employee. And I'll give you an example from growing up on a farm. So I grew up, and those of you reading my posts on LinkedIn, you're hearing a lot of farm stories. Hey, you can take a New Zealand boy out of New Zealand, but you can't take New Zealand out of the boy. The farm's still there, right? So here's my farm story. I'll tell it as fast as I can. When you grow up on a farm, you have a different relationship with money, and farm is a business. And what happens is you have a different relationship with abundance because nature is very abundant. And one of the animals that is very prodigious are rabbits. So if you have an infestation of rabbits on the farm, all you need are 2 rabbits, a male and a female rabbit. And then you have 10 rabbits, 20 rabbits, 50 rabbits, 100 rabbits, and you have thousands of rabbits if they are left to run amok. So in terms of farm with cows, you have 2 cows, then you have more, and they have baby cows and they grow. And this way of thinking about money and prosperity is very different than having a job where you are changing time for money. And this is something that's hard for people to get their heads around because we're so trained, programmed, and conditioned through our education system to think in linear terms about money instead of unhooking it, like the way technology goes exponential. If you make money from a system, which is very different than making money from labor, but this is a different mindset, Victoria. And, you know, a leader, when you're leading other people, you're working together for a common good. But typically, if you're working for a corporation, the corporation's prospering and you're on a fixed income, and the better the corporation does, the more money the stakeholders make, but not necessarily you. And I think we're going to have much more motivation in our workplaces if the prosperity was shared with the people actually doing the work that made the money.
Yep. Yes.
But what's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think the idea of exchanging time for money is prevalent, and that, I shared about unlearning the other day, and that these are some of the many things that if we don't unlearn, this is not about not having a job, because I think there's a right role and right job for everyone, and not everybody should be entrepreneur. not everybody have that to go and be on their own. So we are not here to encourage entrepreneurship or solopreneur or whatever. It's really valuing, for me, right, the bottom line with money is about valuing oneself. And it doesn't matter what you choose to do. You can be in a job, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a business owner, you can be a solopreneur. If I can't value myself, if I don't understand if I don't have a new understanding around time and money, then I'm going to be limiting myself.
On this note, Victoria, I want to add something. You say that you're not encouraging everyone to be an entrepreneur and that it's not for everybody.
No.
Well, I have a slightly different view of this. I think everybody should think like an entrepreneur, should think like an investor. And they should think of the economics of their role and how they can create more money for their employer. And if they can connect their value to the money they create for the employer, they're going to make more money for them and they're going to make more money for themselves.
I agree.
Thinking like an entrepreneur, thinking like an investor, but most people think like employees.
Correct.
And I'm passionate about having everybody think like entrepreneurs and investors. And there's very little value from having an employee mindset. Very little, because an employee mindset's about me, 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 me. I put in the minimum. I work the minimum hours. I put the minimum effort, and I get paid what I get paid. And if the company can pay me more, I might or might not put in some more. But there's a withholding and a disconnect on the value.
Yes. Well, what we are talking about is slightly different. I do 100% agree that we all should think like an investor. We all should think like an entrepreneur, regardless of whether I'm an employee or an entrepreneur, because thinking like one and behaving like one is very different from actually being one. Because I would say the key difference is that one, the risk, if you're on your own, are you able to take the risk with your own money? That is actually the biggest thing. But whereas you can think like an entrepreneur and bring value as an employee by without risking your own money, that might make it a lot easier for a certain group of people. That's all I'm talking about. But when it comes to your own money, it's up to you how much you are willing to risk. So, but I know not many people can do that. And that's the reason why I emphasize this is not about you going to become, set up your own business and all that, because doing that is really not for everyone. And I think every company, like we are hiring, so we want employees, and we want to be able to we want to be able to share the prosperity when we all can, work together and to be able to grow together. And yes, we want employees who think like an entrepreneur and investor. And this morning I was just talking about, if you think that from an employee point of view, the opposite of thinking like an entrepreneur is, well, if the company promote me, then I will do more. If the company pay me more, then I will do more. That's the opposite of an entrepreneur, and it will never happen. Or even if it happens, it's going to be very limited.
Well, a prosperity mindset would be, I'm going to create value wherever I go. I'm going to bring the energy wherever I go. I'm going to put out before the expectation of getting a return. And most people, they will wait for the return they want to take before they put out. And that's why the delivery is minimum, the enthusiasm is minimum, and the energy is minimum.
You give me first. Give me first, and then I will give it to you. But it never happened that way.
That's a poverty mentality. Whereas a prosperity mentality, you bring the action wherever you go. Yeah. You bring the energy wherever you go. And money and prosperity is connected to energy. And how that connects to leadership is that if you have a leader who has a poverty mindset, they want to pay you the least and get the most out of you.
Yeah.
And who wants to work for somebody like that? Don't you want to work for somebody who says, hey, the sky's the limit? And, I was reading about the whole concept of up-jumping monkeys from a Harvard Business Review article from years ago about who's got the monkey. And I was reflecting on one of my early leaders, Victoria, and it's possible they might be here. I don't know. So this leader believed in me, they empowered me and they encouraged me to make the decisions. And I was thinking, I think I learned this monkey business from him. Who's got the monkey? Because I think when I went to him with a problem, he encouraged me to own the problem and he never took the problem. And so what happened is he created more time for himself and more responsibility for me. So I had to solve my own problems, come up with a solution, coordinate resources. So I owned the monkeys instead of passing them on to him. And then I learned that from him. And then now I'm thinking about it all these years later. I'm thinking, wait a minute. I felt that the guy was empowering me, believing in me, when what he was doing was managing my monkeys. So he achieved both things with this concept. And that really is an abundance mindset, a prosperity mindset, because if you empower people to solve their own problems, you believe they can do it. You believe that there's no limit to their creativity and you're empowering them. And that's the kind of leaders we want to work with, isn't it?
Yes. And you guide them along the way, give them sufficient tools and knowledge for them to be able to excel and, develop their full potential.
Have you ever had someone approach you as the CEO, Victoria, and say, Victoria, I love what you do, and I can see there's a lot of opportunity, and I see what you do as an organization. I've researched you thoroughly, and I'd like to join the team, and here's where I can contribute. Here's where I can add value. Here's where I've done that before. Do you ever really have anyone do that?
No. No.
And isn't that such an easy thing to do? Isn't that a prosperity mindset that says there's opportunities everywhere? Every organization is looking for A people, not B people. They're looking for A people, first-class people who bring the action, bring the energy, are willing to be responsible for results. And there's so few of them out there.
I wanted to share a very funny story that's connected to this, but it's connected to. So one of my ex-boyfriend, right? This is the same analogy as what you are talking about when it comes to being an employee. So one of my ex-partner, he was very, he didn't want to spend too much money on me because
what an idiot.
His worry was that in case the relationship doesn't work out, then he doesn't have to lose too much money.
What
of course,
idiot.
You can imagine I was really upset. At the time, I was still a little bit, I didn't have a lot of knowledge around this area, and I didn't understand why. So to me, it's like, so, okay, let me give you the minimum in case the relationship doesn't work out. And that's what a lot of people we know will do that. And they wonder why they can't ask for more income, more salary. They wonder why they can't get a job. They wonder why they are not able to, take advantage of opportunity.
Amazing. And, you imagine that person as a leader where they say, I'm going to withhold from everybody and give them the minimum on the team in case they don't work out, versus being a team leader who says, I'll provide you with coaching, support, systems, tools, know-how. I'll be there for you 24/7. My job is to ensure your success, and I'll do whatever it takes for you to succeed. Will you match that together? And if the employee says no, then you got the wrong person in the role. And if they say yes, then you have a win-win team, isn't it? You have a high-performance team. That's what you want. I also want to say, that part of leadership is collecting money. And all over the world, in every culture, people have difficulty collecting money, and they have so many emotions attached to having to collect money. And I believe that if you as a leader can collect money shamelessly, without a single bit of shame, you can just follow up with people who owe you money, and you can help them to pay you, and you can have empathy for their situation. You can communicate with them. You can duplicate what their challenges are. You can be a resource to help them succeed and help them to pay, and that you'll be much more successful collecting money than how most people do it. Because most people collect money
in a pleasant way, in a respectful way.
Respectful,
you owe me
win-win.
Money, you pay me. Please, that's a disaster. That's a, It's not very encouraging.
Here are how some people with a poverty mindset collect money. What's wrong with you? Why you cannot pay? Why you don't pay? You a bad person. You must pay. You must pay now. You bad person. You naughty girl, naughty boy. You very
bad.
unethical. You very dishonest. You bad person. You must pay. You must pay now. Why can't you pay? What's wrong with you? That's how a lot of people talk. They talk to children like that. My goodness, what a terrible way to talk to children.
That's how a lot of people talk to children.
And if you're a parent here who talks to your children like
Please
that, I'm
don't.
sorry, you're fucking up. Oh, sorry, fucking up your children. They're going to need lots of therapy to get over talking to them like that, because everything you say is either feeding them and empowering them, or it's pulling them back.
Yeah.
And, you know, talking like that shouldn't be said to children, and it shouldn't be said to people who owe you money. Now, they say when you owe the bank a small amount of money, you have a problem. When you owe the bank a large amount of money, they have a problem. So the problem shifts to their problem when it's a large amount of money. So they'll be nasty with you. They'll threaten you with all kinds of things when you owe them a little amount of money. And when you owe them a lot of money, they'll want to take you to dinner, wine and dine you, and see how they can get you to pay. What a difference. So you should owe the bank a lot of money. Now, how to collect money? I must say, you know, I worked a lot at this.
Disclaimer, yes. It's not about owing bank a lot of money. I know you're using that as an analogy, but just
it's
so
an
people
analogy,
are not,
yes.
Yeah.
You're going to get better service if you owe a lot of money versus a little bit. And some people, they, you know, over a small amount of money, they get very upset when people don't want to pay or can't pay, and they can't differentiate between people being unable or unwilling. And that's something as a leader we want to know when we're collecting money is, are they unable or are they unwilling? If they're unwilling, you have to deal with the unwillingness. And if they're unable, you help them to find ways creatively to do it. And in my role a few years ago, I had, one creditor owed 7 million, another one owed 2 million, and the 2 million we collected on many small transactions. And I would always ask, what's the best you can do? When can you do it? Is there something else you can do? What's going on for you? What are your challenges? And then I would coach them with their challenges in order to help them to meet their payment commitment. And what would happen as leaders if we thought more like coaches, helping people to succeed, helping them, because very few people don't want to pay. There are some, but most people want to pay, but they find themselves in a situation where they can't. So understanding them, duplicating them, walking them through it, and thinking like a coach. So far, Victoria, we have, you want to think like an entrepreneur, an investor, a leader, and a coach.
Yeah, it's true. Yes.
What time is this event? It's on now until 1 o'clock.
It's okay. That's replay.
Yeah, you can watch the video and watch it back.
Yeah, he's probably not on. That's why he's commenting.
Yes.
So yes. And so where were you?
Well, Victoria, we're coming up to 7 minutes to the hour. So, you know, this whole hour has gone by extremely quickly. We're talking about money. It's one of our favorite subjects.
So you were just talking about think like you were summarizing, think like an entrepreneur, think like a coach, think like an investor if you want to be able to make more money. And the other thing I wanted to just add is this is more for people who are self-employed or solopreneur or even a business owner. When it comes to charging a price, deciding what fees to charge, what price to charge, right? I think one of the most important factor is you got to be able to value yourself, especially in the service industry. It's not necessarily the most straightforward. You got to be able to, how do you stand out from everyone else? And then valuing oneself and what service and what value you can provide can make a big difference. And being confident in what you can do, and
communicating it.
Yeah, and communicating it can make a difference in how much you can double your charges and providing 3-4 times value without working harder.
That's right.
And a lot of people don't have that understanding.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Understanding. You can double and triple your price while providing 10 times value without working harder.
That's right. Most people, Victoria, have a hard time valuing themselves because their sense of value comes external. It comes from other people. So if other people can see me, then I feel seen. If they value me, I feel valued. If they acknowledge me, I feel acknowledged. If they give me attention, I feel like those needs are being met. What they don't realize is that we create our own reality from the inside out.
Yeah.
And if you're living outside in, you'll always be at the effect of external circumstances, and you're going to live on a roller coaster. Whereas if you can sort out your internal landscape and how you feel about yourself and how you feel about money and how you feel about work and how you feel about relationships and how you feel about other people, if you can sort that out, then it's inside out, and that the outside will be a reflection of the inside. And this is the fast track to me, in my experience of supporting people and in my own journey, is that when I work on my inside, my relationship with these areas, then it transforms on the outside. Because, you know, in any relationship, have anyone here tried to change other people? Has it worked? Victoria, you ever tried to change someone? Did it work?
No, I never.
I bet it didn't work. So you can't change other people. But other people are responding to us. They're reacting to us. This part people don't realize. So if you want to change the other person's response, you don't tell them they need to change, because you're going to get resistance. All you need to do is change how you do it. It's the only thing we have control over. I have control over myself, how I feel, how I behave, how I think, and what I do. So if I change my emotion when I'm interacting with people, they're going to feel it, and they're going to respond differently to me versus reacting. And a lot of people will blame other people around them for being miserable or being withholding or being cheap or being untrustworthy, when it's a inside out job.
Agree. 100%.
That's the number one thing I would like to leave as we're coming to the hour, and I'll hand over to you. And we as we begin to wrap up, Victoria, is that
just add to that point, Harrison. Which I wanted to say that from a having other people see my value point of view. The most important person is you. I got to see my own value, and when I truly see my own value, whatever people see in me, it doesn't really matter, but I will attract more people who can see my value. And the people who can't see it doesn't impact me as much. Like, I don't react to them as much. But when I can't see myself, I'll react to everyone who can't see me.
Feeling unseen is a big issue for a lot of people. Yes. Yeah, definitely. And then we don't see ourselves. So how do people go about seeing themselves and knowing what they need to change in order to get things to change externally? How do they do it, Victoria?
That's a very good question. Clean slate. Well, you got to look at, first is being able to acknowledge, what if I'm not happy with something, I'm gonna be willing to acknowledge that I'm not happy with this, and this, and then, do I want to do something about it? If I want to do something about it, then I have to start looking at, what are then I got to start working on myself to understand, instead of changing the external factors, what am I not seeing that is creating the result that I'm getting right now that I'm not happy with? And that's part of taking charge and taking responsibility. That's
very good. I like that. I'll tell you how I do it, Victoria.
How will you do it?
I have this saying that I picked up from one of my mentors years ago, and he wrote this on a flip chart, and he said, his name is Marshall Thurber, "My results are my guru."
Yeah.
So to own my results, I work backward to what did I do that created that result. And instead of blaming other people and the circumstance, which are very easy to blame other people, people do some crazy, stupid things, it's very easy to blame them. But if I can own my results are created by me, my emotions created by me, my it's what I do, feel, and all that. And then by looking at the result, I get the result. Is it what I wanted? Yes or no? If not, then what do I need to change to get a different result? And it's as simple as that, applied on all levels.
Yeah. How can you do that without blaming yourself? Because I think a lot of people misunderstood when we do that, we are blaming ourselves. It's
Well,
not
you bring up a good point, Victoria, because people see responsibility and ownership as blame. So
yeah,
people don't want to take responsibility for the team performance, for the organization, for the company, because they're avoiding blame. And if they grow up in an environment where there's a lot of blame and where the parents blame the children for all kinds of things and the parents blame each other, because it's very common for people to argue and fight over who's to blame when things don't go according to plan. And
yeah,
this culture of blame and finger pointing, it's you. This leads to a lot of fighting, a lot of destruction, and a lot of divorces and breakups and people leaving teams and business failures, the blame game. And the opposite of the blame game is one where you see responsibility as a privilege and you see it as the only way you can get what you want is by total ownership, that you own the result and how you created that result. And so by viewing it that way, it's a change in perspective that totally changes the game. So if you've had a divorce that didn't end so well, if you got fired, if you got made redundant, if you had a business failure, if you lost money, if you got conned, if you got, one of those love scams from Nigeria, we have some clients who got caught into that. And these are intelligent people. We're talking
yeah.
about doctors, very smart, and others who are very competent, who get caught in these love scams. And, so they're not stupid, but they play on their emotions. So if you can own that it's your unmet needs, your inner stuff that is making you vulnerable to it, that's the only thing you can change. And then you work backward. And not seeing it as a burden. Responsibilities are honor and a privilege. And it's the only way we're going to get what we want is by being responsible for it.
Agree.
And I got another story on this one, which we don't have time today, but someone can remind me to make a post about how all the cows on the farm nearly died and I fucked it up. And I had this burden of nearly killing all the cows that I was responsible for, and I carried it with me for years. And it's only when I was fucking up in my first job as a managing director and I had this serious over responsibility and I was run by the emotion of the cows are going to die, and it's my fault. And so I had this with the whole team. The team's going to die, the cows are going to die. I had it all mixed up. So I had to unravel that. And then I could see as a managing director, I was playing out the same stuff. So I had to take ownership of it, go back to the experience I had with the cows and see what actually happened versus what I'd made up and how it actually wasn't my fault. And you brought up about blame. I had blamed myself when actually the farm manager who I was working for had fucked up and stuck it all on me. So
actually, that's a very interesting story about blame and then becoming a burden. And if anyone feel like you're burdened by something, there's a big chance that you are either you blame yourself or other people are blaming you and you feel blame. So that is when you share that, I thought, oh, that is a huge connection.
That's right. And this is something that we specialize in, helping people to work through these things so you can have better results, you can make more money, you can rehabilitate your relationship dynamic, you can re-engage with team members, you can hire people, you can build business, you can get the kind of results that you want by understanding what other things that are in the way. We call it clean slate, and it's what we specialize at. You know how to get in touch with us. You can message us on LinkedIn, follow our posts. We're talking about all the time. And sometime soon, I'm going to share more cow stories,
Yeah. And I wanted to just find on a final note, right? True responsibility this is my experience. And as we help other people with, it's the same thing. When I truly take charge and take responsibility and own my results, which means my success and my failure is actually very light. If it's not light,
right? Good point.
it's not. There's no. You haven't seen the truth yet. If it's not light, the truth is not there. But when it's true responsibility and when you can see as it is, without any story or justification or excuses or blame, it's actually a very, very light feeling, and your ability to take action and move forward will be very fast.
So what you're saying is if you're unable to take action on something and you're feeling heavy about it, that there's some misunderstanding, and that by seeing the truth of it, you will feel light, you'll feel free, you'll have this lightness of being, and you'll be able to take massive action and get the result that you want.
And that's how you save time. That's how you actually can achieve more in less time. You can achieve something that it takes you 1 year within 1 day. And it's
That's
true. That's
exactly
my
right.
experience.
Right.
That it will drag me for one year, and then suddenly I can do it within half a day or 1 day, or even 1 hour. It depends on what situation.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Victoria, that's excellent. We're going to wrap up here. I'll
Yep.
hand over to you in just one sec. I want to say my
That's
final
it
thought.
for today.
Thank you, Victoria, and thank you everyone for joining us in this Money Talk for Leaders. We have barely scratched the surface. We love doing this, and some of our programs we run talking about money can go on very long time when we have a two-way interaction on this subject. And we will be back again live next Wednesday at the same time, noon Wednesday every week for another subject. We've been doing different subjects every week. This is the 9th session that we've done. We've loved them. We enjoy them. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and spending your time on this session. And next week, we'll let you know what the topic is. Over to you, Victoria. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Harrison. Thank you for being here, co-hosting with me, talking about money. And I actually had fun talking about being hot topic. I thought it was quite fun talking about it. And we have touched on many different aspects of money and how it impacts us as a leader. And whether you're employee, employer, business owner, entrepreneur, it doesn't matter what you do. Think like an entrepreneur, think like an investor, think like a coach. Did I miss out? What's the other thing? Harrison?
I think like a leader, think like an entrepreneur, think like an investor, think like a coach. Yes.
Exactly. And that will help you with more of your money dynamics and make better decision, clearer decision, and feel good about yourself and be free. And so I look forward to next Wednesday, and we will be, I wanted to say that if you're interested in any specific subject that's connected to leadership, please do comment and we'll take that into consideration. Meanwhile, we haven't decided and we'll post it soon. And that's it. Au revoir. Over and out.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy your day and your week. Until next week. Bye.